was awesome.
That was awesome.
You guys are awesome.
No, you're awesome.
You are awesome.
Sir, you are awesome. Seriously.
Awesome. Awesome. Awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Welcome to this week's edition of Everything is Awesome. I am your host, Kev, and this is the show where we talk to awesome people about awesome things. And if you can tell by the sound of my voice, I might be feeling a little under the weather today. It seems to be hitting the entire East Coast, entire country, entire world. I don't know who it's hitting, but dear friend of the show who is going to be on the show today to take a look ahead at 2026 with me, Mike DeAngelo, is also not feeling well today. So we are rearranging our schedule just a little bit. We hope to get that episode recorded and out for next week. However, in this first full week of the year 2026, we're going to sit down and listen to an interview that I did with Michael Pickard. Last year sometime in 2020, well, I guess, hey, it's 2026, sometime in 2024, I believe. So we're still cycling through a bunch of interviews that I did in 2024 that never got a shot at airing. We're going to sit down and talk to Michael in just a minute here. Looking ahead to the month of January, pretty excited. As I was sitting down and going over the schedule for the rest of season 2, I realized we have a bunch of open holes in the schedule. So I started reaching out to people to come on the show. We have coming up, obviously, our look ahead. We're going to have, for our big 10-year anniversary on February 1st of Everything is Awesome, we're going to have Taylor Keller on the show. You may remember her name from the episode 200 and 201, where we sat down and played Star Wars Edge of the Empire in 200 and did a Life Day special in 201. She will be coming on as a guest proper. It is the first time that I've had a guest that participated in like a fun activity before they were an actual proper guest on the show, I should say. So I'm really excited for that episode because it is our A, 10-year anniversary episode, and B, every year is a time to look at what you're doing and potentially reboot, readjust, whatever it might be, whatever words you want to use. With Everything is Awesome, something that I tried doing last year that I wasn't really successful at was making this a seasonal show, and it's still, because of deaths in the family and stuff like that, it still became a hard thing for me to do on a regular basis. But this year, that's the goal. And to help with that goal, we have, I'm doing shorter turnaround times with guests because it's just easier to edit and whatnot that way, in my opinion. It sucks when you don't have a backup plan in place. But because of that, we're not going to let, something that is out of our control delay a release. Just like this week, Mike and I are sick. We're going to pivot the episode release structure. That just means maybe we record something different. Maybe we do a special. Maybe we do, maybe I do a quick pick-me-up game of some sort of whatever. But we make it happen, But yeah, excited. We friend of the show, Aaron Stegman, she'll be on sometime this year. Casey Spivey should be on sometime this year. Someone we haven't talked to in a couple years. Looking forward to having her back on. We've met and made contact with a new friend again, another new friend who I believe, I don't know if he's originally from Bucks County or if he has family in Bucks County, but I found him because he was on TikTok talking about Yardley, and I was like, hey, I know that place. And just kind of a local comedian to the greater Philadelphia area. We're working on getting him on the schedule. Hopefully before his show in Morrisville, Pennsylvania. I don't have the information in front of me, so check the show notes. But Aaron Bell will be on the show, and he is headlining or helping produce or One of those things. He's one of many great talents that are putting together this. I think it's called Just for Laughs. No, it's not called. Listen, guys, I'm sick. All right, I'm not in the right headspace. All right. All the details about Aaron's show will be in the show notes below. That being said, I've gone on long enough. My voice hurts. I'll be back on the other end of this interview with Michael Pickard right here on Everything is Awesome, only on awesomepodcast.com. They're either loud or they are just like tugging at me and pulling me away from what I have to do.
How old is he?
My oldest is 12.
Okay.
And then I also have a 10-year-old girl who also just got out of school a few minutes ago. And then I have my youngest is 3 years old.
Okay.
So very fun ages.
I have 3 grandchildren. One is 10, one is 7, and one is 17.
Okay. Yeah, I am very much not looking forward to the teenage years with these kids. Very specifically my daughter. That's the one I'm worried about. Like, because she's a very independent person, which is great. But she's also very shy. So like, I don't know. And just, it's such a much different time than it was when I was a teenager. Oh God, 15 years, 25 years ago. Oh God. So, but yeah, it's fun. And they act like my daughter, if she was home right now, she would be the only one not bothering me. She, at 10 years old, she's a teenager. She just goes right upstairs. And it wants nothing to do with me.
Yeah. Well, my 17-year-old granddaughter has her own car, and her apartment quote is her bedroom in the basement. So she is away from the rest of my daughter's family, and she is quite independent, and hopefully starting to look at colleges. So I don't think she'll be around for 4 years.
Yeah, that's I know I say all the time, like, God, guys, I can't wait till you're 18. You're 18 and you're out of this house. I say it, and I agree. I know when it comes, I'm gonna be like, all right, well, I was just joking, guys. Like, don't actually leave. Though it is funny, like seeing, especially with the 2 older kids, their different personalities. My youngest is like really kind of just developing that individual personality. But the other 2, like we can look at my oldest, my son, who is very much more like a dependent kid. And we're like, he's going to go to college locally, probably start community college. And even if he goes to so I live if it's not obvious, the Philadelphia area, in the suburbs. So he'll either go to Temple or, somewhere local where he could commute, and he'll probably be a homebody for 4 years until he's ready to become an adult. Whereas my daughter, who is overly independent, she will, not only will she go to college, maybe not even in Pennsylvania. When she's done college, she's going to be living in New York, or she seems like a real city girl to me. She's going to be New York, LA. So it's weird seeing those 2 personalities that have been very similar to what I just described for several years now. And seeing them, seeing if that prediction comes true.
Yeah.
So you are, you've written a bunch of novels, and I guess we should officially introduce you, Michael. Let me see if I can, I am notoriously bad at names. Luckily Michael's an easy one. I'm hoping the last name is as easy as I think it is. Pikard?
Yes, sir.
All right. There we go. Michael Pickard, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And taking time out of your day to do this. So you are a writer of many novels, but that's not how it started. You got the creative juices flowing you said in your little bio, by just kind of having some correspondence with your daughter, was it?
Yeah. So I've had 3 careers. One in software for 28 years for our local phone company, Illinois Bell Ameritech. And when they merged with SBC and the Ameritech name vanished from the planet, I had negative cash flow and I needed to have a job. My wife had long since retired and didn't want to work. And I didn't want a corporate IT job in a cubicle somewhere. So I petitioned Apple and got a job at Apple in one of their stores. And that became my second career for 14 years. Going back, when my daughter was 11 years old, she went to overnight camp for the first time. And she said, "Daddy, I want you to write me every day." And I guess good fathers do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't going to write her something that was drivel, something that she'd look at and just kind of throw in the trash or throw in the bonfire at camp. So I decided that I would write something that she would look forward to, something that she would enjoy, laugh at. And maybe if I was sneaky about it, I could put some life lessons in it and she might learn something as well. So I sat down at a blank Mac screen. And for giggles, I wrote, "It was a dark and stormy night when the spaceship approached Earth." And it was the story of an alien who was coming to overnight camp, her overnight camp. And I knew about the camp because we had an orientation for parents. And so the first year she was away for a week, that was 7 letters. And for years 2, 3, and 4, she was away for 2 weeks. So that was more letters. And then in the 5th year, she didn't go to camp. She took summer school. And so that gave the family, my wife and my daughter and myself, time over dinner to talk about the plot for more chapters. And we would laugh so hard, mashed potatoes would come out of our nose. And people knew I was writing this stuff because I would talk about it at work. And they said, "Well, I want to read it." And so once I had it all done, I put it all together, smoothed it out a bit with some edits, looked for a company that would do a print on demand. Mm-hmm. At the time, it was Ex Libris out of New Jersey, Princeton, New Jersey. And for a small fee, they would put my book in a database. And when someone said, "I want to buy it," they'd print a copy, ship off the copy, and I'd make a few cents.
Right.
This was early in print on demand. So I think I was within the first 200 customers of theirs. And enough people bought the Gerfnet Chronicles so that I made back my money. And so it was in the black. But it was the epiphany of receiving the first box of books where I opened the box, I can smell the ink. My name is embossed in gold on the spine. My words are between the covers. And I just got goosebumps. I'm getting them now because every time I tell the story, it's deep for me. Mm-hmm. And I was hooked. I wanted to keep writing. And I've been writing ever since.
That's very cool. Like the idea of writing for like an overnight camp to which, and I'm sure now, today's world is very different where like my son went away for the first time with the scouting summer camp last year. And I wish I would have had this idea because that's such an awesome idea. Not that we could send him letters because, by the time the first letter got to him or whatever, they would have been probably on their way home. Right. But to even send like a text message or email of this, that would have been such a great idea. But, with today's technology, it's literally he just texts me when he's like sad or upset or whatever.
And what by me, he's my oldest is and my middle child. They are definitely mama kids, whereas my youngest is the daddy's boy. So he doesn't call me because he knows I would tell him just go go talk to John. He knows that you get migraines and stuff. Like he'll take care of you. I tell him to toughen up, but so mom's the one that babies him a little bit, and then ropes me into it to take care of him. But that is such a neat idea, and I wish I would have had that idea because now telling stories, and I don't necessarily tell stories with written word. I kind of we do like D&D or other kind of tabletop role playing games. I am working on a novel. I've been working on it since I was 16 years old. I spin too many plates because at my heart, I'm a podcaster, and this is the form of entertainment that I really like to do. And so this is how I tell stories, or better spoken is how I tell other people's stories or allow them to tell their own stories is through podcasting. But what a great idea. And for that to flourish over years naturally into a book. And then, I have my best friend is a writer as well. And he self-publishes as well. And he says that he has a very similar description every time he gets a new box of books that he's worked on, where he's opened up this box and it's like, it's just like the feeling of having a box of books that, yes, it might be his 20th book that he wrote, but it is still such a cool feeling to see, the cover, the name, the words in between. So to see that flourish over a few years, obviously, based off your description, I can see why it gave you goosebumps. Was that your children's book? I guess you would say it was.
Well, so it's science fiction in genre.
Right.
I attempted to write it to her age level. And that was tough because every year she got older and smarter. And so the writing could get a little more sophisticated. And I was writing without any training. I hadn't gone to any classes. I certainly didn't have anything approaching an MFA. And so I was just writing from the heart and maybe from the funny bone. When I look back at it, it's special not because it's well written, because it is not well written, but it is a story that I did because I was writing it to an audience of one, my daughter.
Right.
Things have gotten harder since because now I have a larger audience. They're mostly adults, I believe, and their expectations are higher. It's almost like everyone who has a word processor wants to call themselves an author. And I guess that's okay. But I set a really high bar for quality. Mm-hmm. And so when I release a book, I've slaved over it. It is not an easy process. When I pick a topic or a story, the story has to resonate in my head and in my heart, because if I'm not dedicated to that story, I'll never get through the 2 years that it takes to get it on the market.
Right. Now, is that your how long is, so 2 years. So your process is approximately, you'll start with your idea and then 2 years later, you'll get it to a finished product ready for purchase.
Yeah, I have a procedure that I follow that I keep refining every year. But my launch point is National Novel Writing Month.
Okay.
Where the task is to produce at least 50,000 words in the month of November. And I do it by the book. So I will have an outline and I will have deep character profiles, many of whom are written by my contributing editor, who's my sister. And I will dump the story high speed through November. leave the novel. At that point, it's not a novel; it's just the Mountain of Words trademark. In December, and then I will start to carve pieces out of that in January. It takes less than 6 months to do that. The long period of time is delivering the chapters one at a time to 2 different critique groups serially. So one group will see it. There'll be edits I'll do. There'll be edits that my sister will do. It'll go to the second critique group. And when that's done, it goes through 2 beta cycles. So all of that review time is what takes the time.
Okay.
But that's also why I juggle multiple books at the same time.
Right. That is, so do you still self-publish everything?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that, that's, not dissimilar to some other processes I've heard from like independent authors where they like, my friend who I said is an author, like he also usually uses NaNoWriMo as a launching month. I have tried that so many times myself. And what ends up happening is, we have to go to this, football game or this baseball game, or we have to go somewhere for a kid event. I guess I'll just write later, and then I get home and I'm tired. So like dedicating that daily writing goal for me right now is not very easy to do, especially with the little one, because they just exhaust me after a day. So, and again, the whole spinning of too many plates thing. It's almost like I would need to take November off from everything but being a dad and my day job if I wanted to really commit to NaNoWriMo, which I may do one year. I'm starting to balance my life out when it comes to all my creative projects. And something that I've been very vocal about with this podcast is that we're in season 2, meaning I'm taking the summer off and whatnot. So maybe November is a vacation month for me as well. But that process of like going through beta readers and editing it that way, or my buddy actually he does go to an actual editor at times as well for some of his books, for like the larger ones. But that is a familiar process I've heard of using NaNoWriMo as a launching point, and then taking a month off from that, and then, going through that whole process to refine it into more than a mountain of words, as you have said.
Well, certainly editors are available. They charge money, and they should, because they have skills. When I think about, okay, so what do I get if I present a manuscript to an editor? I get their professional opinion, but I get one opinion.
Right.
So both of my critique groups have 5 people in them. Perfect. And so at least 5. So I will get all of their opinions. I will get my sister's opinion. I will get the opinion of at least 4 beta readers in 2 cycles. So that's 8 more opinions. So I could have about approaching 20 opinions about the words in the book.
Right.
So I know your next question is, so how do you rationalize all that, especially if they disagree? And the answer is simple. I'm the author, and I get to decide, because it's my book.
Right.
So all the feedback is valuable. It's a gift. And I can use that to identify weak spots, identify errors, and to push myself to do better for the words on the page. So I don't want my stuff just to be yet another self-published manuscript on Amazon. I want it to be a quality item. And there's a couple of things that have happened that make me feel like I've achieved that. My first detective novel, which was my 10th published novel, was a finalist for the 2023 soon-to-be famous Illinois Writing Contest, where librarians reviewed it. For me, that was a huge deal.
Right.
That said that people who deal with books and words all the time found my novel to be one of the 3 best in Illinois. And if you check out Creative Deduction's Home Run on Amazon, it's 5-star review, and the review comments sound like I wrote them. No, I did not write them, but there is one that when I read it, I want to cry because of how heartfelt it is. So do I have a broad footprint? No. But the people who are buying my stuff are getting quality stuff, reasonable price, entertainment, some information, and the opportunity to think deeper about the themes in my novels.
Well, and that's so, I've always asked my buddy who does his writing, I'm like, hey, like, would you ever like go to an actual publisher? And he writes a universe, right? A universe of stories. So like those 20 books, they're not necessarily, it's not like Marvel. It's not like MCU intertwined where you need to read one to read all 20, but they share the same world. Very similar to like a Forgotten Realms, Dungeons and Dragons, novel world. So, and like his answer is no, because that world is so precious to him. Have you ever thought about going to an actual publisher with any of your novels?
So, the short answer is no. The longer answer is I've been in a writing group now for about a decade, and one of the people in the group had written what I thought was a marvelous novel about a guy who comes back from Vietnam. He opens a bar, and one of his friends had sired a girl, and she's in her teens, maybe a little older. And he's a father figure for her. And it was a really touching story. She submitted it to a contest, and it won the best unpublished manuscript that year. And she got an agent because of that, because she drew attention. And so the agent is out there trying to sell the book to publishers. Whole process is convoluted. And the responses from all the publishers were, there's no question that there's quality writing here. Absolutely. But we can't sell it. We won't make any money off of it. And so I took a look at her work and my work at the time. This was a few years ago. And I went, do I really want to start down that path? Where it's up to an individual in many cases, right, deciding the marketability of my product. Do you know what the most powerful word in the English language is?
Hit me with it. Control. There you go. Yeah.
Because if you have it, you have it. And if you don't, you don't.
Right, right.
So as an independent author, I'm in control. I get to decide the cover. I have a cover artist on the East Coast who's doing all 3 covers for the Detective Epic 3-volume series. I'm hoping she sticks around for a few more novels because she's terrific. I get to decide when I'm just editing for changing words' sake and not making it better, just making it different.
Right.
Timing is mine. If you get into the mainstream publishing and they accept a manuscript, it could be 2 years, if you're lucky, before the book comes out. And if my goal is a book a year, and it has been at least for the last 4 years, that doesn't match my time frame.
Right, right. Yeah, that's, and again, I feel like there's that independent spirit that many independent artists, I'll use the broad term, that encompasses writers and actual artists and, broadcasters and game designers and stuff like that. I feel like that is very similar across the board when you're an independent artist, where you want that control. And for many people, it's not worth giving up that control to deal with a big name publisher or even a small name publisher. Because to your point, a small name publisher is likely one person who's going to make decisions that are based off the betterment of their publishing company, not necessarily your story or your game if you're a game designer, or your podcast if you're a podcaster with it, looking to join a network. So I something that I've always resonated with. I'm a big Kevin Smith fan, the film director Kevin Smith. And even though he's definitely more mainstream now than he was 30 years ago when he directed and released Clerks, like, he's still an independent spirit because he's not mainstream. Not everyone wants to sit down and watch a Jay and Silent Bob movie. All right. So, and I've, since the beginning of me podcasting and if it makes it to the beginning of the show, I mentioned it earlier with you. If not, my audience already knows that, like, I've been podcasting since 2007. And the number one thing I always wanted to do was raise up independent voices. And at the time, we structured our podcast in the way of local radio. And I don't know if in Illinois they had like Free FM, which was like huge when Stern left radio and went to satellite. Like a lot of these rock stations that aired Howard Stern in the morning, like within a year of him leaving, they turned into Free FM. And it was no music. They got rid of the music. They got rid of the rock, which was the stupidest thing they could have done for their rock station. But whatever, they changed into a talk radio station. So you had from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. or 12 p.m. or 12 a.m. Just new voices every 4 hours, new shows. So in 2007, when you're doing a podcast, you don't have anyone to emulate in the podcasting world. And so we emulated, a 2-hour show that was on in the Philadelphia area. And it was, musical guests and musical interviews. And sometimes it was like, wrestlers and from the area and stuff. So we always, I want to say at one point, and it may have been after I had left the show, we did interview, and it was definitely after I left the show, they interviewed Bowling for Soup, which was like the biggest name in music that they had ever interviewed, which is cool. And don't get me wrong, if an opportunity comes across to talk to someone that's at that level, I will gladly jump at that. But my main focus has always been like, let's get that little rock band from Levittown, Pennsylvania, or let's get that artist from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Like, let's get them in the studio and let's talk to them and let's play their music, or let's let them play live on the show. Cause at the time we were streaming. And always that independent spirit has been so important to me that it's always been hard for me to, like, when I've had opportunities to take podcasting to the next level, I was like, I don't want to, like, I don't want someone like I left the show because I was having kids, but like another factor was it was getting ready to make the jump like to Sirius XM. And I was like, they're going to tell us what we have to talk about. And I don't like, that's not me. Like, I just want the reason they want us is for what we're talking about, but then they're going to tell us we can't talk about that.
Yeah.
So that independent spirit, I think, is so important. I think it's hard to maintain that spirit. I think especially as a writer, because it's probably one of the longest processes of seeing your work come to life. Is that something that you have to like deal with? Is like, oh man, sometimes it's hard just doing this on my own.
It is, especially if I want to meet that schedule of a book a year. So at the moment, I'm juggling 4 novels, and my fellow authors tell me I'm nuts, and maybe there's some truth in that. But the third Nick novel will come out next April-ish. And that's in critique right now. And it'll go to beta later this year. I'm writing and refining the novel that I dumped out of my brain last November. I'm going back to sci-fi for that one. I have to share with you the name of that novel because it's a giggle. Aliens of Mediocre Intelligence.
All right. I'm intrigued.
You quickly find out who that refers to. And then Nick as a character tugged me back. And so the novels for 2027 and 28, that's publishing year, not dumping year, are going to be two separate, not linked up, Nick novels. Because I love him as a character. I know his voice. I know how he acts and reacts. I want him to have a chance to be a detective in a book all the way through. He gets to do that in the other books, but here it's in his lap and he has some detecting to do. And the novel for 2028 should be something from Nick's past comes back to haunt him. And that's been foreshadowed in the trilogy. And I don't have anything planned for publication in 2029, so I'm sorry. But keeping all the projects going is a way for me to get some variety into my day. If I want to work on planning for the Nick novel later this year, I can do that. Otherwise, I can work on the mediocre aliens, or I can tweak some of the stuff in the third Nick novel. I have a table full of choices, and I do love variety. So this helps me maintain that.
It's spinning so many plates can be a great thing, or it can also be a curse. Often it's both. And I think I think like something that is like an issue for me is like all my plates are in different worlds, right? So it's harder to maintain those plates when they're in different worlds. Because I do see when I like everyone that's focused, unlike myself, when they're focused on writing, or they're focused on, game design, or if they're focused on podcasting, like they can maintain several different projects without really letting a plate fall, or at least it won't break when it falls. And maybe it spills a little bit of mashed potatoes, going back to your reference earlier in this interview. As someone who I couldn't maintain more than one book. I've been maintaining just one for literally 15, 16 years at this point. And this is the year that I've done the most work on it. It's all prep work. And I am planning actually on using NaNoWriMo this year to dump a bunch of words out about it. I might not do daily. I might not even hit 50, but I'm going to use NaNoWriMo to just get it done. But there's when you're building, and I'm sure now, are your sci-fi novels, are they part of one universe, or are they all different?
All different. I try to hit all the tropes at least once. My latest science fiction novel, Forward and Back, is the perfect time travel novel.
Oh, that is a bold choice, word choice when it comes to time travel.
Well, see, now and I can justify it. People will write screenplays or books, and because there is no real science for time travel, they will make up the science. They'll invent it. Good for them. And then somewhere in the novel or the screenplay, they will violate the time travel rules that they created. Shame on them.
Yep. Yeah.
So when I decided that it was about time for me to tackle time travel as a topic in one of my sci-fi novels, my goal was that I would not violate any of my own rules. And so the rules aren't written down like Asimov's rules of robotics, 1, 2, 3, 4. The reader learns about the rules as the novel progresses. But I put that novel through what I've already described, the critique process, the beta reader process. And the people were charged, number one, with, besides commas and misspellings and plot holes and other stuff, their first mission was, what time travel rules that I invented that I violate? and so they all came back and said, I can't find one. So 20 people said, I can't find one. I wasn't satisfied. So I published the book, and I said, for anyone who buys the book on the day of launch, if within 30 days you find where I violated a time travel rule of my own creation, first person who sends me a valid one of those, I'll reimburse you the cost of the book. Unsaid, and I'll fix the problem. Again, control. If it's on Amazon, I can change it tomorrow.
Right.
So I got some emails about missed opportunities and some other stuff, but no one wrote and said, you violated a time travel rule. And so the readership, the people who bought it and read it, plus all of my critiquers and beta readers, none of them could find it. And so I make the claim that if all those people couldn't find one, there isn't one. And so it is the perfect time travel novel.
I have written down, because I love time travel. I love it so much. I love Back to the Future. I love Hot Tub Time Machine. I love Marvel for a whole bunch of reasons, but I love Avengers Endgame because it brings in time travel, and it really kind of makes fun of the science and the tropes of time travel, while also, I'm sure, breaking its own rules at some point in that movie. So I made a note of that novel because I love time travel, and if it's the perfect story, I need to read it. The perfect time travel story, I need to read that.
Of all my novels, my sister loves that one the most. She thinks it's the best one I've ever written.
Well, and that's, it's now, are you someone, again, this is, I think for any kind of creative person, I don't think it's necessarily for just writers or just artists or whatever, but is there like, you go back to your novels and do you say, well, I could definitely do this better now, 2 years, 3 years later, because I've lived more experience. I've written better than I did 3 years ago. Are you always looking at your past work as a mistake?
So the only one I did that with was the first novel, The Gerfnet Chronicles, the collected letters to my daughter at camp. And I only did it because one of my grandchildren, I think it was the oldest one, a long time ago, wanted me to read her a story. And so I pulled The Gerfnet Chronicles off the shelf and I started to read it to her. And I had to stop, because the writing was so bad, and because my brain was working in edit mode, not read to your granddaughter mode. And I'm cataloging all of the writing mistakes, sudden unearned shifts in point of view, tense changes, all kinds of things that were just horrid. And I did make an attempt to rewrite. I sat down and I said, okay, let me retell the story with my skill level improved. And I didn't even finish the first chapter. And I said, I can't recreate this. This book was created at a point in time, in a particular circumstance, to my daughter, on the fly, over a 5-year period where I only wrote during the summer. Right. And so I can't disassemble this and turn it into character profiles and a plot line, it will take all of the juice out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've decided that that novel stands as it is. And don't get me wrong. In terms of occupying my heart, that book occupies more of my heart than any of the others, because of the circumstance.
Right.
Which I guess is why I don't want to touch it.
That makes sense. And I don't know that, like, you know, as an example, like there's actually only one book that my friend wrote that he pretends doesn't exist, and he took that one book and because it wasn't even published through Amazon at the time, because I don't know that they were doing self-publishing back then. This is when he was 16 or 17 years old, and it was like published through like firstbook.net or something like this, where they charged you, like they made you pay like $700 to have the book published, and whatnot. So you had to pay them, versus now where, like, when you do it through Amazon, like, you are paying costs, but those costs are usually for artists, or everything but to actually upload it to the actual platform. So for him, that was the only book he took, pretends it doesn't exist, and then created a whole trilogy out of it. But even that original trilogy now, as he calls it, he looks back at and he's like, man, like that is the writing of a dumb kid. And he was probably in his 20s at the time when he wrote that. But because he looks at his newer stuff and he's so much more prouder of that stuff. Rightfully so, because it's now a writer who's been writing for almost 20 years. And, you know, but he tells me, he's like, I guarantee you in 20 years, when I'm sitting in my rocker on the porch at 60, I'll look at those books from 20 years ago that I think are so good now, and they're gonna be mediocre.
I wasn't sure when I started out. I had a lot of enthusiasm for writing after the Griffin Chronicles, but I wasn't sure that I had books in me. That's radically changed from back then. And the fact that I will now shortly, as of next April, have 2 trilogies under my belt. One, a sci-fi trilogy, Invasive Species, and the Nick Chasm trilogy of creative deductions. The fact that I've strung together 2-3 book sets that tie together. The Invasive Species set I was proud of, because each novel can be read as a novel, and it's got the same characters and a plot, and you can read it and you go, okay, you know, there's a start and a middle and an end, and the end is satisfying. But if you take a look at all 3, there is an arc for the characters and the story that spans all 3 novels. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they are in some sense self-contained, but also part of this whole, I'm proud of that. I'm proud that I could achieve something like that.
Well, that's hard to do. Like, I think it's an easy is a relative term here, but I think it's easy to say, oh, I'm going to tell a story in book 1, 2, and 3, but then to also make them, well, book 1 and book 2 and book 3 can be read individually, and not, not read in order or anything like that. Like that takes some doing. Like, that's hard to do. I couldn't. I would have to sit down and really like go through your process of, like, let me build this out so many years in advance to make that happen, because that's, my brain doesn't think that way. Like, my brain, I know that I have a story, and I know that I like, all right, I can tell it in book 1, 2, and 3, and I know what that story is, but like, to make it so fine tuned like that, I think is a skill that is, like, you have to earn that skill. and you did. That's great.
It was funny because I had presented chapter 1 of the first invasive species book to a critique group, and one of the guys in the group wrote me an email after the meeting, and he said, "You don't know what you have here." He'd only seen the first chapter. He said, "I want to read the whole thing. Do you have the whole thing?" I said, "Yes, I have a draft of the whole thing." He said, "Send it to me." So I sent it to him. A while later, he says, "Let's meet at a coffee shop." And he had done line edits, and he had a series of recommendations of things that I should do. And the recommendations were great recommendations. But the last recommendation I rejected. He said, "You need a sequel." And I went, I don't have more story to tell. But he planted a seed, pun intended. And when I thought about it, I realized that, in fact, there was a second book. And as soon as I knew there was a second book, I knew there was a third book. And so I launched into doing the subsequent books for invasive species. For the Nick novels, it was similar, but I view the Nick series more like Lord of the Rings, where there's an overall story, and it's just too big to put between a pair of covers, so it's got to be chopped up. And like Lord of the Rings, the second Nick novel, Double Play, has a synopsis of the first novel at the beginning of it, just like Tolkien did.
Okay. Now, before we wrap up here, you didn't set out to be a writer, but obviously, you've read books. Do you have, whether they were inspirations before you became a writer or they're now, you look at them as inspirations as a writer? Who were some of your, the authors that you looked to when you became a writer?
So I hearken back to some of the classic authors. I love Asimov and Frederick Pohl, who, as it turns out, doesn't live too far from Illinois, and Roger Zelazny. The Nine Princes of Amber series struck home with me. I probably read most of the sci-fi books in our local public library. And I've always had an affinity to thinking about, what if, my favorite two words in the English language. I'll take something that's based in fact, and I will kind of stretch it at the edges, but not break it. And I'll lead the readers through a journey to explore those fringes. And in many cases, they are satire. So when the person is laughing at an alien, they're really laughing at human beings because of the stupid stuff we do. Right.
Oh, and that's my favorite kind of humor, is the satire, and especially when it's punching up. Obviously, it's always fun to look at ourselves or things that represent ourselves and laugh at the silly, stupid things that we as human beings do. All right, Michael, is there anything that you would like my audience to know about that you have coming out very soon, or where they can find you to learn more about you and your books?
So thanks for the opportunity. It's been nice having a conversation instead of a list of questions. It felt very natural.
Thank you for that. That's like we said, and before we actually recorded, that's my goal with this show, is to not make it feel like any other interview show. And that's why I do an hour, because I want to have that conversation, whether it's sometimes, and some guests aren't too happy, but some guests are really happy. Like sometimes we never even get to the whole point of why they're there. And those are some amazing conversations. And, it is so grand to be able to sit down with somebody like yourself and just have a conversation about kids and about and the nice thing is that, like, you know, I didn't even mean it to be a natural segue into your first story, but it was a great segue to get to your story, was talking about our kids and your grandkids. And I take a lot of, I feel like what I do is a very odd approach, which is like to have an interview show that's not an interview. When people appreciate that, thank you is, I guess, is a long-winded way of me saying thank you for saying that. Anyway, go back to your plug.
So your listeners can find all of my novels, children's stories, and a collection of juried short stories at Amazon, but I've made it easy. There is a web address, www.gerfnit, GERFNIT.com, and that will redirect to my Amazon author page. And all I would ask them to do is read the little blurbs, because what I use the back cover blurbs for the short descriptions. Read those, maybe read a couple of the reviews, and see if anything resonates with them, something that would be interesting for them to read based on their reading preferences, and give one of the books a shot. I promise that it's not something I wrote yesterday and put up on Amazon today. They'll be getting a quality piece of work for their hard-earned money.
Yeah, that is, if you're taking 2 years or so to go from, you know, idea to published, that is definitely showing the quality that you put into those stories and the love that you have for those stories. And like, I mean, for me, you don't have to say much. You can say time travel and I don't break a rule. I'm like, all right, I'll like, I'm an easy sell. But for everyone else, you know, where quality might be, you know, obviously an important thing. I think, you know, hearing you talk about how your process really shows that quality, that love that you have for that quality over quantity means to you.
Well, again, I appreciate the opportunity to meet you, chat with you, and become and have your audience become aware of me. It's all about eyeballs.
Right.
I don't love the business of writing, but it's a necessity. If I'm going to share my story successfully, then unfortunately people are going to have to buy my stuff. But you have convinced me, although I wasn't sure when I came in, that I deserve to be on the show called Everything is Awesome.
It is. Listen, everything is awesome. And I can say for sure that with the simple words of a perfect time travel story, that's all you needed to say to prove that you are awesome. And in a world where everything might not feel like it's awesome, I really try to make sure that, like, for at least an hour a day, at least our days are awesome. And hopefully everyone else's that's listening gets something from it and their day becomes awesome as well. We don't build Legos though. That's the one thing we don't do on this show, is we don't build Legos. Maybe one day. Mike, thank you so much for being part of the show. And I can't wait to see what you do in the future. And we'll have to have you on again in season 3 or 4 to talk about all these new great stories. Maybe you'll have plans for 2029 and 2030 by then.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Once again, thank you to Michael Pickard for hopping on the show. Make sure you check out the show notes for links to his Amazon page, maybe some books directly that will link down there. What a wonderful guest to have on. I love connecting with other creators, other authors, especially independent authors and creators and actors and basically, you know, whatever it is that they do. The independent nature of it is something that I really connect to. There's a reason that one of my favorite bands in the world is Robots and Race Cars. They were a local band here in the greater Philadelphia area. There's something about that independent spirit. We mentioned that a few times in the interview that I really gravitate towards. And I don't know if that's because I myself am an independent creator, from writing, from podcasting, through everything that it is that I do, is I'm an independent creator, and I do things without the backing of any kind of big money. Whether it's the fact that I do gravitate towards that when it comes to almost every medium, with music, especially with, I guess not necessarily books, or movies, but definitely music. As you know, I've said plenty of times on this show, I'm not a big music person. I don't know anything about modern day music, nor did I know anything about modern day music when I was in my late teens and 20s, when I was, coming of age, when most people get their, musical stylings and what they listen to for the most part of their lives. I listen to a lot of 80s music because that's what my uncle listened to. I listen to a lot of 90s music because I did come up in the 90s. But I also listen to mainly a lot of independent music because that's what I got to know while I learned how to podcast in the mid to late 2000s. And I will still go to that to this day. So that independent spirit that we talked about with Michael here is something that I really feel strongly about. And I do strongly think that you should be supporting independent artists first and foremost. That's why Patreons are so important. I think actually we might have one that I don't talk about very often because I need to go in and readjust it and relaunch it basically. But Patreons and other ways that you can support your local creators, whether they are comic book writers, whether they are authors, whether they are filmmakers, podcasters, whatever, that is the best way to support them, is by giving them your money somehow, whether that is supporting them on an ongoing basis with a Patreon or whatever subscription-based model they use is, whether that is supporting them by buying their wares, buying their comic books, especially if you can buy them directly from them, or if there's someone like Jadzia Axelrod who publishes with DC Comics, go to a local comic book store and support. You're supporting two people at that point. You're supporting Jadzia by buying her comics, and you're supporting the local comic book store by buying from them directly. They need your support more than Barnes & Nobles does, or by buying directly from the publisher. So I'm big into the independent scene, and Michael Pickard here is, he's an independent author. So, buy his books. Links in the show notes for all that stuff. Before we go, because again, if you remember from the top of the show, I'm not feeling great, and you might hear it in my voice. Before we go, we talked about Aaron Bell at the top of the show because he is a future guest on the show. And I don't know if we'll release his episode before his show. When we chatted, he asked that I would promote it. He is a fellow Bucks Countyan, at least once upon a time he was, or his family still is. But he does come down to Bucks County or up to Bucks County, whatever direction it is for him. He comes to Bucks County sometimes, and he does comedy like he will be on January 31st. It's a Saturday. Come down, come over, come up. Come to Bucks County. It's a wonderful county. Come to Lower County, specifically Saturday night, January 31st. Laugh at the Lab. He's co-headlining with some great comedians. There will be a link in the show notes. It's at 925 Lincoln Highway in Marsville, Pennsylvania. If you know me, you know that that's a stone's throw away from where I live here in Levittown. And that's right. Levittown's big, so I don't feel bad about saying that's where I live. But Levittown is part of Bucks County. It is, dare I say, the heart of Bucks County. Other people will argue about it. But as the mayor of Levittown, I love this place, man. It's fantastic. Historically, not so great, but we're changing it here. So check out Aaron Bell. Check out Michael Pickard and his books. I can't wait. And I know I said this when I interviewed him a year or two ago, but I was reminded by the editing process. I can't wait to read that time travel story, which will be linked in the show notes. I'm picking it up as I hit publish on this bad boy, because I'm, again, reminded in the show notes that I have to buy this wonderful book. That is according to him and his beta readers, the perfect time travel story. Let's see. Let's find out together, shall we? Let us know if you read his perfect time travel story, if you found any holes on TikTok, Instagram. Anywhere that you can find me in social media land is at That Nerdy Kev. At Real Awesome Pod on Facebook is where where you can find me on Facebook. I don't really have a public Facebook account. Anyway, thank you all for listening. Once again, next week, little tease for you. Me and Mike DeAngelo hit the mics yet again. We took you back. Well, a couple weeks ago, we took you to a galaxy a long time ago and far, far away when we recorded the 200th episode of Everything is Awesome along with Jeff Stormer and Taylor Keller. We told a little story in that galaxy with a ragtag group. Go check that out if you haven't yet. It's a wonderful story. I apologize for the audio quality on that one. We were trying. I was thinking too much. I thought too hard. Basics. That's what it is. Hey, 10 years in of this show and almost 19 years into my podcasting career, we're still making mistakes. We're still learning together. Listen to that. You want to get a little bit more scripted with those characters? 201, the Life Day special. Life Day is all the time, man. You don't have to just be celebrating Christmas to celebrate Life Day. It's about 5 minutes long. Mike and I headline that as Rindak Orlu and Jik Jack the Jawa. And we talk about Life Day and go through some rules and tell a little story. Then, if you haven't heard yet, in 202, we do the Everything is Awesome 2025 Rewind. And next week, to go full circle, Mike and I come back to these microphones to do the 2026 look ahead in movies, video games, TV, a little bit of books, but mainly movies, mainly video games, a little bit of TV, just a little bit of books, maybe. Thank you all for listening to Everything is Awesome right here on awesomepodcast.com.